Hey everyone, welcome back to the VSO Gun Channel. Thank you for tuning in. This video is filming immediately following the publishing of my last SHOT Show video, but it's going to require a lot of research and also a fair amount of editing to complete. So I don't know when it's going to publish, but I guess what I would say is that I take, well, that would be a lie. I was going to say that I don't take any pleasure in this sort of thing, but I absolutely love this crap. Traitors must be purged. I think I have a pretty good idea of how people in our community feel about certain things, but to make sure, I always try to check myself. And so I put up a poll about people who are less than committed to our ideals working here. The majority of you, as in 98% of you, say either, the big one, that they should not be allowed to work here and we should eliminate them from our community at every opportunity. And then a very much smaller percentage of you said, yeah, I suppose they can work here, but we should know who they are. And then 2% of you are gun controllers. So in the spirit of that, going to the comments, many people said, yeah, Tim Kennedy should be off of every 2A related thing ever. And that brings up something to me that needs to be addressed. There is a continuous fight going on currently between attorneys on retainer and the United States Concealed Carry Association. And if we're going to bring up Tim Kennedy, which is the face of the United States Concealed Carry Association, then I think that it is important that we also consider the background of the people from attorneys on retainer. And I have in my possession some disturbing data that I need to share with you. And we're going to do that after we hear a quick word from today's sponsor. If you don't have a real trauma kit, then I suggest that you go look at my friends at Medical Gear Outfitters. They're my go-to stop for everything medical related. And they even have ones that are pre-packaged for specific instances like car accidents or like the rising floodwaters thing with the one that is in a dedicated Pelican case. While Medical Gear Outfitters is a sponsor of the channel and does provide you guys a discount, you can find all that information in the relevant places. I'm not trying to be super heavy sales with you guys. I'm just trying to take an opportunity to maybe highlight that there may be an additional hole in your lifestyle, and there's a quick and easy fix for that. Now, before we really get rolling on this, I need to point out a few things. I have made multiple videos on the differences between AOR and the USCCA and the continuous fight that seems to be raging across the interweb between the two organizations. And I am very displeased to report to you that a schism has formed in the area that I work in, which is the creator community, the media side of things, the support structure of these organizations. And that fight has now degraded to the point of personal ad hominem attacks. So we are no longer discussing or fighting about the business practices of these organizations. We are no longer debating their track record or their substantive differences. We are now fighting each other. So because you support this, now you are a bad person and blah, blah, blah. That is where we are. And I have a message for those of you who are doing that. You know who you are. You guys are an embarrassment. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, and you ought to go sit in the corner for a little while and put your fucking phone down, because y'all are children. I'm going to direct you to my previous work that has been done on these two organizations, and I'm going to say that I am, again, paid by neither of these organizations. I think they both fucking suck, and you should support neither of them. I will agree to a substantive debate between the two sides where I moderate it. And I'll do the same thing that they do in the presidential debates, and I control the microphones so that we can no longer have this shouting over each other thing that happens. Because the stuff that I have seen is deplorable out there. And again, y'all ought to be ashamed of yourself. So at this point in time, we have talked about Tim Kennedy ad nauseum, all of his gun control efforts that he has done in the past and continues to do as the face of the United States Concealed Carry Association, and the USCCA compromises their alleged principles by having him on the payroll and as the face of one of the faces of the organization. So now let's talk about the face of the organization of attorneys on retainer. Again, we have talked about Marc Victor more than once at this point in time, and we have hashed out that he ran for Senate on a gun control platform and that he has said some pretty stupid crap about gun control. Well, I now have some data to share with you from his 2022 Senate campaign. Where did all the money come from that got him where he was? And who was he beholden to? All right, so for all this, you're going to have to go to the FEC website. So all of this is public record. You can look it up yourself and validate what I'm showing you. So the first list of transactions that we're going to look out here, the first two are for Stop Republicans in 2022, totaling $5,000. Save Democracy in America for $5,000. Defend the Vote for $5,000. And Defeat Republicans PAC for $5,000. All of those in 2022 to the Marc Victor for Senate campaign. I would like to point out that the largest contribution that a single organization or person can make is $5,000. Let's keep going. Around the same time, he received $5,000 for 314 Action Fund, which, totally funds Act Blue. Which, if the name Act Blue isn't good enough for you, then let me give you a real quick crash course. Through their defense action funds, they are responsible for passing huge quantities of money to people that we don't particularly get along with, like, for instance, Harry Sisson, huge gun controller, and my favorite, through Leaders We Deserve on a regular basis, is Davey Hogg himself with huge quantities of money. Remember that Defeat Republicans PAC? Guess who funds it? You guessed it. Act Blue. Defend the Vote? Yep, you guessed it. Act Blue. Save Democracy in America. This is one of the most interesting ones because this is one of the ones that we know is funded by a huge slush fund. So basically to avoid campaign finance laws, and there's actually an investigation going on about this right now, these huge slush funds basically spread money around to these various organizations, and then those organizations distribute them to the relevant people. And this just so happens to be one that Marc Victor benefited from. And it is hard to tell which strings were attached to that one, but I think you probably can guess. Now, I don't really consider myself a Republican, but I oftentimes find myself voting with them. And I think that the name Stop Republicans basically speaks for itself, but you can track it through to Open Secrets and find that, they've contributed millions of dollars for progressive outreach. In other words, gun control. Now that I've laid that out for you, I'm going to go personal for a second, just a little teensy bit, and say to the content creators that work with AOR, not all of you, but to the ones that cornered me on more than one occasion at SHOT Show and said things to me like, oh, well, you should know Marc's heart. You really don't know the man. I've spoken to the man twice, right? And I suspected that this sort of thing was the case, but now that I have the data laid out in front of me, my response immediately upon seeing the data was, I'm not surprised whatsoever, because I just assumed that this was the case. So this moral high ground, understand that if you choose to work with either of the organizations that we have detailed up to this point, that you are working with gun controllers. You've got one side that is fine hiring somebody that says that gun control is a massive solution and is cool with running a private enhanced background check company that will comb through your social media and give a yes or no vote on whether your social credit score is high enough to be able to buy a gun. And then on the other side, we have somebody who has literally taken money from people that hate you for the purposes of political advancement. So please tell me where the moral high ground lies that these folks across the board are using to say that their people that they support are the people that you should go out and you should support. I have a message to all of that. Get fucked. I'm serious, because this is absolutely ridiculous. Neither of those organizations is better than either of them, and anybody who is telling you otherwise is lying to your face. This may seem very cliche, but actions speak louder than words, and behavior has been demonstrated. At the same time, I am as red-blooded a capitalist as can possibly exist, and therefore, I respect the grift of Marc Victor and the team over at AOR. They have put on a masterclass of character assassination when it comes to defeating their nearest competition, which is the United States Concealed Carry Association. And they can continue to do whatever it is that they want because, as far as I'm concerned, both organizations exist for the purposes of making money. And that's okay. That's fine. If they're providing a service that you find valuable, then go buy it. But don't try to tell me that either of these organizations should be put on a God-level pedestal, because that is not the way that it works. And as far as my friends that choose to work with either of these organizations, no shade cast on you whatsoever. Go get your money, man, my friend. And I hope that you have a great rest of the day. Just leave me the fuck alone and stop acting in such a way that is negatively impacting the future of our community. You know who you are.